Here are 4 Rolexes that you did not know existed. Starting with Rolex number 4 that you did not know existed is the Rolex Yachtmaster Daytona. The Rolex Yachtmaster Daytona was released shortly after the Submariner models. It was launched as sort of another nautical-inspired watch. This came about 30 years before the actual Yachtmaster was released. This being a prototype that actually was never released to the public. The Yachtmaster Daytona has the hallmarks of a Daytona, but printed on the actual dial is the word Yachtmaster, and one of the rarest ever known watches. There's only been 3 known to exist in its entirety, and 2 of them in history were owned by, of course, Eric Clapton and John Goldberger, both massive, massive watch collectors. The third Rolex you may not have known to exist is the Rolex 16528 Yellow Gold Daytona, aka the Chairman. The Chairman is a 16528 reference in yellow gold with what they call a sunray blue dial, and these models were made for quote-unquote special people in Rolex in 1991. There are only 12 known examples of this watch to exist. Really sort of hard to put a market value on them, but they do run near the mid 6 figures. The second Rolex you didn't know existed is the Rolex King Midas. The King Midas is probably the grooviest of all of the Rolex models in recent memory. It is the only asymmetrical case made by Rolex, which is pretty awesome. These started production in the early 1970s. They come in multiple different metals, including white gold, yellow gold. The King Midas is pretty special because it was made famous largely by Elvis Presley, who was gifted one of these watches for a tour that he had overseas. These aren't necessarily super hard to come by. In excellent condition they are, and these can be found somewhere in the upper teens and above for a really good example. And probably my personal favorite of the bunch, the Rolex that you didn't know existed, coming in at number 1 is the Rolex Space Dweller. Probably the coolest of all of these and the most badass name in my opinion. The Space Dweller was another non-production model that was made in the early 1960s and was released in the Japanese market to commemorate the Mercury 7, which were a group of astronauts that were to man a mission to the moon. And the Space Dweller is effectively just a 1016 reference explorer that was rebranded to say Space Dweller on the dial. Now, these are extremely rare and only a handful were ever released to the market, and again, a very small run. And as rare as they are, they do sell into the low 6 figures. There are some that have hit the market fairly recently, but they're gonna cost you a pretty penny in the low 6 figures. Of everyone on that list, which one is your favorite? Were you aware of any of these models? Drop us a comment, let us know.